right this moment, looking at yourself, what value do you place on your life? I'd like to tell you a story about my friend Jim. Jim had a successful marriage, great job, home, 3 lovely children, and from the outside, he looked like he was living his dream. However, on the inside, Jim was dying. Over the years, Jim lost everything that he had ever counted important. His marriage, his children, his home, his job. Most importantly, he lost himself. So in 1974, Jim had reached a level where he valued his life at $50. $50. Jim was so tired of the pain that he decided he could not live anymore. He paid a complete stranger $50 to drive over him. As Jim started out with his plan, he laid on the street, and he placed his last empty wine bottle on his chest. And at that moment in time, Jim saw his life as empty as his wine bottle. How full or how empty do we see our lives today? He heard the car approaching. He took his last, what he thought would be the last breath, held it in, closed his eyes, and waited for the inevitable. The car came, it was closer and closer, and the car stopped. This was not part of Jim's plan. He heard the door open, footsteps come across the cold, wet pavement, and he opened up his eyes, and there was a policeman standing over top of him. "What are you doing?" "I'm committing suicide." "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" "I didn't count on being here." "I will get you a hotel room, and when I get off work in 3 hours, I will come over with the drinks." You see, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jim's hook to live one more day, because Jim was an alcoholic. At midnight, knock on his hotel door. Jim opened the door. There's a police officer standing there off duty with 2 steaming cups of coffee. Through that caffeine-laced conversation, that policeman told Jim about his struggles in life overcoming alcoholism 5 years earlier. And that night, that police officer told Jim that change is possible. Since that night, Jim has never had another drink. However, he's still looking for the guy with the $50. Why do I tell this story? I tell this story because I met Jim in 1987 when I was sleeping in ditches in front of 5-star hotels, living a 2-star life. Sometimes I believe that angels come into our life and we're at the lowest point. Whose angel are you? By Jim sharing his life with me and giving me hope and that it's possible, I have been alcohol-free 7,802 days, 1 day at a time. But this is not about me. It's about you. How are you showing up in your life? As Les mentioned earlier, it's not that we aim too high and miss. Perhaps we aim too low and hit. In your life, are you aiming too high with unrealistic expectations and not doing the work behind when your first struggle comes? Are you aiming too low? Or perhaps you know people that are not aiming at all. The first thing that I had to do was to learn that change was necessary. That was my biggest step in moving from the problem to the solution. The next step I had to do, ladies and gentlemen, was to do an inventory of myself, and that wasn't easy to do. Looking at myself, because that's where the problem was in me. There were days that I thought I would never make this. And I look back now, and I look at the struggles I had, and we all have struggles. I always focused on the how. How am I going to get through today? How am I going to be successful? How am I not going to go back to the people that I had relationships with? How am I going to continue on with this new life? I looked at the word how as a roadblock or a stumbling block until I started seeing the word how as my rock and my anchor. If you look at the word how, the H-O-W, the H for me is the honesty to ask for help when needed. The O is for the openness to welcome life's possibilities when it comes to you. The W is the willingness to keep on keeping on when you are at your darkest hour and you cannot see even the next day. And that is what has brought me here today. When I look back at my life, living a 2-star life in front of a 5-star hotel, and standing here before you today living a 5+ star life beyond my wildest expectations today, it is because I was taught and shown that it's possible. Once again, I ask you, right now, what value do you place on your life?